Hey, welcome back to Outspoken, the place where we talk about the things most people avoid, the things men bury, and the things faith brings to the surface, whether we like it or not.
And today we're stepping into a topic that hits every single one of us. Not the love we want, not the love we wish we got, but the love God actually calls us to give.
Yeah, the kind of love that doesn't always come back, the kind of love that doesn't get applause, the kind of love that exposes your heart more than it comforts it.
We're talking about loving others, not because they deserve it, not because they return it, but because Jesus commanded it.
This one's going to stretch you. It stretched us. So buckle up. This is Outspoken.
Everybody wants to be loved, but not everybody wants to love. Not the way Jesus defines it. Not the kind of love that costs you something. Not the kind of love that doesn't come back to you. The truth is, the real test of your faith isn't how you worship, it's how you treat people who don't make it easy. Today, we're talking about obedience over outcome, loving others the way Christ loved us, even when it's not reciprocated.
All right, guys, welcome back to Obedience Over Outcome. Today, we're going to be discussing some things that are biblical about us and the way we're supposed to treat others. And Joe, gosh, we're not always the best at treating other people, right?
Well, no, we're not. I mean, you're not wrong there, and you're absolutely right. I think that's one of the biggest things, and I think both you and I know, and the way society is today, that we live in a very selfish society, right, where we expect something in return, and that's not the way things work. I know you and I talked about this in the past, that love, the way we understood it, at least the way I understood it, was very different to how love has really, what God speaks of what love is, right? It's an act. It's not an emotion. It's not a feeling. It's something that we do for others, expecting nothing in return. And man, today's society clearly not living that way, right? We're far from that. You know, the amazing thing is that there's a verse in Romans 5:8 that says, while we were all sinners, Christ died for us. So that tells me something amazing, right? It tells me that God didn't wait for us. He didn't say, I'm going to wait for these guys to get better. They will. I'm rooting for them. I know they will, right?
Yeah.
And then maybe then I'll die for them, because they deserve it. Clearly, he didn't wait, right? Clearly, we don't deserve it. He still died for us. That's a kind of love that you're not going to find in everyday life, right? That kind of love is, man, I don't know. I know as a parent, you love your children, and you lay your life down for them and whatnot. But even then, you expect something in return. You expect some maturity, some responsibility, we still expect something, and yet God, our Father, expects nothing, right? He said, this is, I'm going to do this because I love you. The rest depends on you, So, that speaks volumes, bro. I don't know about you, but that to me is like, I wish that I could get to just a little bit of that kind of love, and I think it's hard. It really is.
Yeah. And, one of the simple things and we've actually discussed this before, is just like driving down the road, somebody cut you off, and obviously that's not a love thing, but it is a thing that we can control in our own hearts, that we don't get pissed at people when they cut us off going down the road. Now you take that to relationships you have locally, people that you interact with on a daily basis and everything. And how much do we really care for those people? Do we, oh gosh, there comes Jay again. Want to avoid that guy. We can all do way better, in caring and love for one another. John 4:19 says we love because he loved us first. What you said about Jesus dying on the cross for us was an amazing point to this whole deal, is because we as humans, we don't have that kind of dedication to forget for a second people outside of your family. We don't even have that kind of dedication to our families typically,
Right.
And that's another thing you and I have talked about. We're better friends, and I would rather you be safe and think than some of my own family, like people that are blood relatives of mine. So it's not always about just family and everything. A lot of times we don't even care about our family that greatly, right? And we don't put enough into our relationships in there. And you think about like romantic relationships and stuff like that. So we're going to date, and then we're going to get married, and then everything's not going to be perfect. And, 7 years from now, I'm like, you know what? I just want a divorce now. I know we got married and everything, and I made this commitment to you, but it's not easy anymore, and I just don't like the whole thing. And now there's that old saying, it takes two to tango. It is really important that's why it's so important that both parties, no matter who it is, family members, love life relationship kind of thing, friends, whatever, that your number one focus is a godly lived relationship, because then those two people are always going to be able to have a better in sync relationship than people that aren't like
Correct.
that, right? Not to say
Yeah.
that we can't get along with people that aren't believers, but I tell you what, it really helps quite a bit. And especially, I mean, I'll say it over and over again, in romantic relationships, if you're not yoked the same, it's really going to be extremely difficult for you to continue on a relationship path that actually works.
You're absolutely right, because I think that a relationship, whether it's a romantic one, a family one, a friendship one, if it's not centered around God, you're bound to fail, right? You can't have someone who's a agnostic and a Christian have a romantic relationship and think it's going to be successful, right? Because there's some moral standards and grounding that you have to follow, right? But if you just start thinking about this, Jay, think about some of the words in the Bible. It says, love thy neighbor, love your enemy, all these things that it says about love, it starts to make sense, right? And this is how I think about it. We're raised, we are taught at an early age that love is an emotion. It's a feeling, like, oh, I feel like
That's
I
right.
love you, right? And like, bro, I love my coffee. I'm gonna tell you that right now, right? And I love my drinky drink and things like that. Emotions betray you. Emotions are not real. Emotions make you weak in a lot of ways, right? Because we feed into those emotions and makes us make bad decisions. What God is talking about, the love that he speaks, is very clear, right? Like, you love someone regardless. And when they say love your neighbor, love your enemy, these are people you might not even know, right? But you're supposed to love them. And that's where it falls back to. It's an act. It's something that comes from you that you have to do, right? And we talked about this before. It's so much easier to be bad than it is to be good, right? And there's a reason for that, So when God says to love your neighbor, love your enemy, that's a task. But it's not about them. It's about you. It's about you and what it's doing to you as a person, an individual, to love somebody. Because when you truly love someone that's not in an emotion based, you love them not how you love them. Let me clear that up because it sounds so ridiculous. In other words, when you love someone, you give them their love, right? You protect them, you care about them, you see how they're doing, you do things for them, you worry about them. That's love, right? And expect nothing in return. You don't want nothing back.
Right.
I just want to make sure you're good. I want to make sure you're all right. I want to make sure you're making the right decision. I want to make sure that you're okay. I want to make sure that we're okay, that things are good. But then you start thinking that in everyday life, right? You get two people who like each other and end up, getting married, right? Because of love. And then you start having issues and whatever the case is, you start having fights. And you start thinking, hey, man, you know what? Not that I'm forcing myself to love this person, but because love is an act, I have to be better. I have to do better, right? And I have to focus on what the issue is and not just say, I quit. I'm done. I'm done. You know what I mean? And you put that in everyday life, and it's amazing because, you have to love people, not when it's easy to love them, not when you expect something in return, because there's some people out there that are hard to love. Let me tell you, very difficult to love. And that's okay. You don't have to marry these people, but you have to love them, right? But they make it very hard to love them. But you just have to be accepting of things. You have to know that this person really kicks me up a notch, but you know what? He's one of God's creations just as much as I am. I wish him well. I don't want any bad things to happen to him. But I love him enough to respect him and kind of stay away, keep my distance, so we don't, we're not choking each other, But here's the thing: God put a standard of love upon us, and now we have to keep that standard. We have to maintain that standard, and that's such a difficult standard to keep, Jay, because again, we have to break out of the cycle of the emotional love, of the feeling
Right.
love, and start focusing more on the love that's an act, that I'm laying my life down for you. I will do this for you. What can I do for you? Nothing. Love the next person. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's the love that we have to understand. And where do we get this? Where do we get this love that the Bible speaks of, that we're all like, okay, dude, look, Joe and Jay, what are you guys talking about? You guys, you guys come from a divorce. Yeah, we do. It's because we didn't know what love was, right?
Right. That's right. Yeah.
I didn't know what love was. I thought love was a feeling. I lost a feeling. We're done. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of things going on, and we mature, and I wish her well, and that's as far as we go with that. The thing is that as you grow older, you realize what love is and what it means. And so, where do we get this, Jay? You ask? And I know you didn't, but I'm talking about the audience out there. I know you know where it comes from. So 1 Corinthians 13 breaks it down. It's very easy. And these are the things that people so if you say, I love my partner, I love my best friend, I love my girlfriend, I love my wife, I love my dad, I love my mom, this is what love is. And this is what you have to do, right? Love is patient. How many of us lose our patience with our brothers or sisters or lovers or whatever? Love is kind. Love is kind. How many of us have not been kind, right? We're not kind people. Love is not proud. So what's that mean? Proud means that I don't want to win. I don't have to win this argument. It's not about winning the argument. It's about letting it go. It's like, it's not important. The argument, you know what? The argument is not important. If I hurt your feelings, I apologize. I'm going to do better to not do that again. But I don't have to win this argument. Winning this argument means that you're losing. And if I love you, why would I want you to lose? Right? And so again, prideful, that a bad sin, right? Love is not self-seeking, right? We don't seek it. We don't love ourselves and seek that love, and it doesn't do that. Our love is for others. We have to love others, right? That's our godly duty. Love keeps no record of wrongs. That's a hard one. Now, we've both been in relationships, so you know that's a hard one. Why? Because a lot of people's partners like to bring up the past. Right? They keep record of the wrongs.
Remember 6 months ago what you said to me?
Yeah. You say something that triggers them. You're like, oh, you remember back in 1996 when you said that to me? I'm like, what? Jeez, baby Jesus, right? But again, true love keeps no. It's always, man. True love does not keep records of wrong. If something happens, I say, you know what, you're right, I forgive you, we're done. It's done. We don't bring it up. We don't keep ridiculing someone for it. We're past it, right? Love always protects. Love protects the heart, protects the being, protects the person, protects the relationship, protects everything. That's what love is, right? And then love always trusts, right? How many of us are doubtful Bettys, right? We all are, including myself. We have doubts. Why? Because of past damage, right? So we carry these things and we're like, bro, let it go. But it's always hard.
Yeah, we all get jaded on past relationships, right? And sometimes I think, I mean, I know we hear it a lot, or women are like, oh, I'm sick of men and this and that. But I think men get it worse than women do, and we just don't say anything about it. We're just so like, again, I mean, I can't even think of a better word than we're just jaded against, committed relationships is what happens. We're just done with it. And but so many people fall into that category. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then love always hopes, right? There's always hope in love. You never give up. You're always hoping and driving and striving and trying to do better. And love always perseveres, right? It always wins. If we truly love, it always wins, right? So again, that's not about romance, not about butterflies in the belly. It's not about convenience. That's about character. That's a character. We're not saying that's a feeling, right? We're saying that's a character trait. That's you as an individual. You're expressing these things, right? So if your love only works on easy people, that's not Christian love, brother. That's the world love, right? The worldly love, I guess, the wrong type of love. Right. We're doing it wrong. And let's be honest, Jay, from 1 Corinthians 13, how hard is that? How hard is that? Honestly, when you're driving down the road and someone cuts you off, how hard is it to love that dude that just cut you off, right? With the Obama bumper sticker. How difficult is it for you to love that individual that you want to just curse on the top of your head?
Right.
Right? But you can't, right? You have to love that person. You're like, man, I hope you have a safe drive home and I hope nothing happens to you because you're driving recklessly,
Right.
But that's not who we are. That's not how we're wired, right? Our love is just current people that we love, people that we know. That's who we love. That's our circle, inner circle. Everybody else, it's out of luck, buddy. You know what I mean? Come back next week when I need a new friend, maybe a new partner. I don't know. We'll see what we could categorize you and see if I have time for love. That's not how it works, right? We should love everybody in our circles, outside the circles, in the square, the sphere, wherever,
Yeah. And, something that has come up lately and quite a bit. And, we talked to somebody else about this earlier this week about this actual deal that we're doing, Joe and Jay, and how we have changed quite a bit, right? Over the years. We're going on our third year of doing this, and we started off very political, right? And now we've kind of switched gears a little bit. And one of the things in the political realm was a lot of this stuff with all the folks that want to be identified in a certain way, right? They have their pronouns that they want to be called and all that. And, one of the things that I would hear is like, so, you claim you're Christian, but you don't respect these people. And it's like, no, that's not the right word. I've heard, and this has come up a lot lately on Instagram, and I know you do TikTok and stuff like that out there, where there's these folks that are transitioning, right? So typically the ones that I see, it's a guy transitioning to a female.
Right.
And they're actually doing this whole thing where they're saying, listen, I just feel like I want to be dressed like a woman, sound like a woman, look like a woman, all this kind of stuff. But they're going, I know that I'm not an actual woman, right? I know that biologically I'm a man and all this kind of stuff. And so for us, I'm like, well, I'm cool with you then. Like, I don't agree with your lifestyle, right? And just because we're okay with you and can hug you and stand behind you and stand beside you in your things that you're doing doesn't mean we have to agree with you 100%,
Correct.
right? It's the same thing. And I know this is at a lesser level and everything, but imagine two best friends and one says, "Hey, I just don't like animals being eaten and stuff," and I'm going full vegan, vegetarian. What's a pescatarian or whatever? What's that? Where they only eat fish or whatever it is.
Wow.
Yeah, and they're going that whole direction. So are you all of a sudden just not going to be friends anymore? No, you might kind of. And here's the cool thing about it: you kind of make fun of each other once in a while. Why are you eating beef? Why are you eating tofu? Kind of thing. But you can still love one another. Still be there at 2 a.m. If you break down on the freeway or something like that. And that's the problem with society now, is that there's such a divide for people. And just because we're different, I mean, that's the problem. We are all different. Just because we're different doesn't mean that we don't have something in common, which is we all bleed when we're cut. We all die when our heart stops pumping, right? And we all have the same worry and thoughts about what happens after this life, and we can all believe in Jesus. He didn't set a color line for that, or you didn't have to be born in a certain country or anything like that. So it's really something that, we need to understand, keep it front of mind, and know that we're really all the same, man. If you stripped the skin off of everybody and we were just meat monsters running around, there's really no difference between, went super Halloween with that.
Yeah.
So something you said earlier is like love basically you were talking about love without exception, right?
Right.
Love is not a transaction. So you don't love somebody expecting something in return, because that's a transaction. You go to Target and you give them, you put stuff on the conveyor belt. They're going to give you that merchandise, put it in a bag. And what do they want in return? They want money in return, and so that's a transaction. Love can't be like that. You can't say something, give something, and then expect them to say something in return, or expect them to give you something in return. Now, the deal of reciprocity, right? Or reciprocating to somebody. If somebody says, I love you, or somebody shakes your hand or smiles at you, normally you're going to smile back. And it's a normal human reaction, but we shouldn't go into love expecting that. Right. And, how are we supposed to love other people? I mean, and the thing is like one of the key things in the Christian lifestyle is it all starts with prayer, right? We have to pray to get ourselves into a better space. Obviously, read the word, all those kind of good things. Ask God to soften your heart on this subject, because you and I have talked about this before, and we just mentioned it. How hard is it to not be pissed when somebody cuts you off on the 17 freeway, right? I mean, we just get pissed so easy. This is the moment that we need to ask God, hey, I fail at this every time, and I need your help in softening my heart towards other people, and people that maybe it's not easy for me to get along with or start the conversation with. Choose compassion over assumption. A lot of folks are, again, we were just talking about it, we have past relationships, we have past things that we've dealt with, and that past trauma and hurt and everything is just, it's right there. So it bugs us, and we bring that back up. The term is thrown around a lot nowadays. It's called red flags, right? So we have these things that are set in our mind, and as soon as somebody says this word or whatever, whatever, again, it goes back to all the stuff triggers, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a red flag. That's a red flag of her or him or it or whatever they want to identify as. And so we've got to kind of get out of that, because everybody has a difference in a situation. One person's red flag may be kind of another person's comedy, right? You might not like something that somebody does, but if somebody else does that exact same thing, you might laugh because it's funny coming from them, because it's a whole different experience with a different person, because we're all individuals and we're all different, right? Serve in small ways. This is hugely important, because if there's one thing, and I'll say this for guys, I can't say this for women, but we get into relationships, and what do we do in the beginning? It's a courtship, right? And we buy her flowers and chocolate and all that kind of stuff. And then guy psychology, once you do get married, this is a tough thing for marriage. Once you do get married, you have given her, in your mind, the ultimate gift. You've given her you, right?
Yeah.
And not to be conceited or anything, oh, you got me, now you're good to go. She now has you. That's what she's wanted the whole time, right? Marriage, 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 marriage. I want to be married. I want to be married. So now you've got me. So now I'm going to sit on the couch and play video games, watch sports, do whatever. And I'm here, honey, whenever you need me. And she still wants that courtship thing that, we used to do. She wants us to try. And the thing is, just a little note once in a while, a little text that says, I love you. Just the simplest things in the world can make all the difference in a relationship down the road, instead of it becoming stale. And then this goes for regular relationships too, because you and I, gosh, in the last, what's it been? Almost a month now, I guess. We have, between work and all the other stuff, we were hanging out at least once a week, if not twice, sometimes 3 times a week. And we went to like stalemate, nothing.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
I know.
And it feels weird, dude. It feels weird. It doesn't feel right, and it's not my fault. It's not your fault. It's not anybody's fault. It's just life threw stuff at us. But it's one of those things that, I mean, I know I feel guilty from you and then, other people in my life. And I've made some drastic changes because I knew that I can't keep up with the pace that I was going, letting so many people down. And that's a problem, is being a yes person with things like that, and just like you gotta know what your limits are at one point or another. Speak true with grace. So love tells the truth, and people know if you're BSing them. Hey, I love you. Yeah, it sure doesn't feel like it. Yeah, right. So be truthful in that, and make sure that you are living up to what love is and what you would want from yourself too. You're in any kind of relationship, again, romantic, friendship relationship. What would you want that to feel like to you? And are you reciprocating that same feeling to somebody else? And again, have to be careful, because we use that word feeling, and it's not a feeling. Love is an action. It's a, something that you do, but still we gain emotions from those actions, right? On the receiving and on the giving end of it. So, and I mean, the main thing, stay anchored in God's love. Jesus showed us the ultimate love, the ultimate sacrifice that none of us are ever going to do for somebody else. And for us to ever say, oh, it's too hard to love somebody. Well, I think it'd be hard to die on a cross knowing that there was and be tortured, like literally tortured, and knowing the people you're dying for don't care about you, don't want anything to do with you, wish you were dead, are glad that you're up on that cross bleeding to death. That is difficult to think, that there was so many people and the world was so evil, and then he still did that for everybody. The little bit that we can do, the tiniest amount of service that we can give to others, and love and help and everything that we can do, and just prayer for people.
So you said something earlier. You said that it was kind of important. You said that he loved us first, right? He loved you first, which is talking about God loved us first. So why do we feel like there's God puts a lot of weight on us about this? Well, it's important to know, you guys out there, that when God initiated his love to us, he initiated it, right? Because he didn't wait for us. He didn't wait for us to apologize. He didn't wait for us to mature. He didn't wait for us to get our life together. He just said, I love you. That was it. Right. And when we love others first, that reflects him. Right. And we have to understand that. And that's the thing where people don't get, is that we need to initiate it. We need to show the love. We need to be the ones to do it. But love also breaks a bunch of cycles that people are in. Cycles of bitterness, of pride, of silence, cycles of I'll match your energy. Love interrupts all that. It interrupts it, and it breaks the cycles, the chains of that gets us all bound together and soon not liking each other, right? But here's the thing people don't understand. I think we talked about this earlier, is that loving others doesn't mean that we have to lose ourselves, right? We can't allow people to just walk all over us. We can't allow people to disrespect us. We can't allow people to manipulate us, or people to drain you. That's not love. That and being around those people or allowing people to do that to us, that's not something that God asks us to do. And that's not biblical love, right? When we do that. So Jesus loved everybody, sinners and non-sinners alike. But he didn't trust anyone. He didn't trust everyone because, we have to be mindful about that. He didn't give everyone access. He didn't choose everyone. He didn't stay where he wasn't received. And those are just smart acts, right? You're not going to go to someone's house, you feel unwelcome, and you're going to stay there. You got to bounce, right? You're like,
Right.
Don't feel the vibe here. Love is not the absence of boundaries. Love is the presence of wisdom. We have to be smart about what we do. That's why love is an act. It's not an emotion. It's not a feeling, because it gets the best of us and we make horrible decisions and we fall into sin, or we into anger or into hate and things like that we really shouldn't be doing. You can love someone and still say, I can't let you talk to me like that, right? And that's important, because loving someone doesn't mean that they could walk over you. You could love someone and say, I can't stay in this environment because it's toxic, right? Because you're just, there's too much things going on that I'm trying not to be involved in, and I don't want to be here. And again, you can love someone and still say, I forgive you, but I can't give you the same access, right? Because I'm not going to allow you into my inner circle where you could possibly damage everything I've worked on. And love doesn't mean you have to stay. Love means obeying, but doesn't mean you have to stay. So like you said, we have to do a better job as human beings. We have to do a better recognition in knowing that the love that we were raised on is not the love that God teaches us in the Bible. And the more we know that, I think the better we're able to understand what it is that God wants us to do, right? And live a better and happier life, man. People out here are doing horrible things to each other in the name of justice and in the name of their God. I don't know what God they're talking about. It's not our God. And they fail. So we have to do a better job. And I think that if we take just a moment to read the Bible and understand what God is talking about love, and we actually put it into practice, a lot of things could change for us. And I don't mean just us, but I mean the world, right? And that's the hardest thing that we can do is do to others, right? To serve others. People don't want to do that. People want to be served. They don't want to serve. So I want to tell you guys, I think we ought to do better, and I think we need to focus on what's important, and that is to love our neighbors as God loved us, and that includes the enemies. It includes people that we don't like. At the end of the day, is there really a reason why we don't like someone? Like, whatever it was, they didn't pay us back, they did us wrong, whatever the case is, look at your life. Like, did it really impact you that bad that you have to continue to dislike this person? Or are you still doing good? Are you still successful? Are you still happy? They've done nothing then. Right? And you're just wasting energy on stuff that's unnecessary. So forgive them, move on, and live your life and be happy. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, so guys, let's be honest. Loving others is hard. It's uncomfortable, it's humbling, it's inconvenient, but it's also the clearest evidence that Jesus is alive in you. When you love someone who didn't earn it, when you forgive someone who didn't apologize, and when you show grace to someone who didn't show it to you, you look like your Father, and that's the whole point. Loving others isn't about who they are. It's about who you're becoming. It's about obedience. It's about reflecting the heart of God. It's about choosing to love the way Jesus loved you, first, fully, and without conditions. The world doesn't need more people demanding love. It needs more people giving it. Well, everybody, thanks so much for joining us this week. Make sure you take care of one another.
And remember, do better, be better.
And as always,
God bless
America.
We'll see you guys next week. Have a wonderful week.
See you next Tuesday.
We'll see you.